He pukerangi toto kataraho, e mihana ki te whenu, e tangiana ki ngā tangata katoa. Ola hihi pō, ola hihi a, ola ngā tuirio ki te matahau no tū. Tū te wini wini, tū te wana wana, tū i hakaputai ki te haio, ki te ao mārama. Turu turu atai, turu turu auta, hāno, hāno, hara mai te tōki, haumi e, hui e, taiki e.
Tēnei whakāturanga, e hua mai ana kai rotu i te kōrero, he mana anō te mana, he reo anō te reo, waiwai ana ngā ngutu. Tērā whakāturanga e whai hua mai ana te ngāware noiho o tō kōrero, kai rotu i tō reo, i te wā kōrero he ana koe. Āhua reka ana, te waiwai ana, o au koutou nei kōrero, ki ngā tāringa o te ngākau o te tangata. Nō reira ka tika ana rā, kia whai hua mai ana, te waiwai o ngā ngutu. Āhua ngāware haere ana te kōrero, āhua pāreka reka hoki ana ngā kōrero. Koine ana te take, e tākea mai ana, te kāranga hia atu, te tāpahina atu, me te huaina o tēnei whakāturanga. He reo anō te reo, waiwai ana ngā ngutu. Ko te taunga i mua i toko nei aroaro i tēnei wā, ko te kōrero hia e mau ana e rangi kāheke. Mo te kōrero o ngā tama a rangi raua ko papa. Ko tēnei kōrero e tīmatai ana i te wā o te oroko hanga. This kōrero is relating it to the biblical text and how our Genesis extends even further than most other people's understanding of the universe as being recorded and still maintained by our people. We have extensive genealogies. Some of them, they extend right back to over 600 generations or understandings. The beginning of time, star constellations, right down to the whakapapa that we have as people in this realm. In the start with Raparapa Te Uira, Raparapa is the whanda, which is the voice, and Te Uira is the tohu, or the sign. So the first reo kia matura, mai ngā atua, ko te Raparapa Te Uira. That's where te tuhirangi comes from. The first sign in the sky was lightning. So the word we have now is writing hei tohu. I tai ana ki te pānui te atu. You're able to read it by reading the elements or the signs of ngā atua, of nature and the environment. Many words from that period of time, in those period of times, are the vocab and created our vocab that we have today. Even for plants and birds, good example of that is, and a differentiation between dialects is, for the mōpok, and the sound is ruru, ruru. But for mātou nei, no tāua mātou nei haukainga, ko te koukou. And so you can hear what the bird sounded like, so that was the name it was given. Ko ene taonga e takoto mai rā nei, mo tēnā kaupapa, o mo te pūrākau. The term pūrākau is the origin of ancestors or the beginning of their people, so that it's more than just stories. It's a type of story that gives meaning to the hapu, to the whānau, and to the iwi. Here is a pūrākau, which is he toko. As it's laid out, it's used as a device for memory and retention and for teaching. And it gives the genealogical connections from the top, coming to the end of the toko with hoturoa. So it's got a connection to Tainui. This specifically comes from the Tahuhu family, from the Tainui waka, and their arrival here. So it's a genealogical stick in the sense of telling the stories. It's the origin of the name of Pūrākau. Now you have it in paper form as stories, but this is the original form of that word, and it originates from this type of taonga. There is the story of Hinamoa and Tutanekai. It's first captured in print and by being heard at Makoia Island in Rotorua itself. It was published in 1851. The reo is distinctively of the Te Arawa people, and this interesting comment states when they arrived and they were sitting in Makoia Island, the elder says this to him: "Titiro e te kawana e whakarongo mai hoki. Ko te wāhi e noho i ana e koi, ko te wāhi tēnā e noho ai tō mātou tupuna a Hinamoa. I tōna kauanga mai, kia kau whau tia atu ia nā e ahau kia koe." It's telling the governor, listen, where you are sitting right now is the place in which Hinamoa swam across and arrived at. So that was the introduction to the story of Hinamoa and its reciting.
A kanui te mihi ki a koutou, I tatu mai ki te mātakitaki, rongo mai ki tēnei whakaaturanga. Ko te kaupapa o tēnei whakaaturanga, e pāna ki te ātāhua o te reo Māori, me ona āhua reka, me ona momo. In front of me now I have another Māori newspaper called Te Korimako. This issue is from January the 15th, 1886. A lot of Māori newspapers were named after birds, korimako being the bell bird. The calls of the birds were acknowledging the break of day and also the evening. These are well-known tau or saying, "Whakarongo ake ki te reo o te manu e tangi mai nei, huia, 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 hui huia." So listen to the call of the huia bird as it cries out. The bird calls in Māori are often expressed as being like knitting or sewing. So the call of the bird unites people, and so it's quite apt that these newspapers should take on the birds, and korimako is just one of many examples. This paper was written entirely in Te Reo Māori. The title of the article is called Te Tukunga Iho o Ngā Kupu Rereke. I came across this article by accident, and I read it for the first time and thought it was lovely, and then I had to see the original. There's a flow to the reo. As an example, ka hukapapatia ngā tangata I ngā kupu matao, a wera ana te tangata I ngā kupu pāwera, a kawana te tangata I ngā kupu kawa, ko ngā kupu riri he whatupu I te riri. So that's talking about how words of a certain nature beget the feelings that are associated with them. So cold words make people feel cold, hot words make people feel hot. Words of anger breed anger. The other sentence I like, e hara I te hanga te pai o taua pukenga a tāhua. It's talking about how the gift of communication, we don't make the the most of this beautiful skill. I think it is poignant too as a reminder for today, with all the technology and exposure to the outside world. There's such beauty in words, in simple communication and expression. It's just a matter of considering them well and making use of that skill, as this article from Korimako says.
In front of me, I have a reprint of 8 cards from an edition of New Zealand Grammar from 1820. So for me, it's really about the first engagement of Māori and Pākehā coming together, or the missionaries, and trying to figure out how do we capture this language, bearing in mind how the ear is quite different. So of course we start with all the alphabet, comparing to English. And you've got the D being used here, like dear, do, and comparing that to how we pronounce the T's in our language. What I also find interesting are the dialogues between the Christian missionary and his pupil. Ka wareware pē, oki koe ki tō taua nei wa kākonga, oki no nānahi oki. E teka, ka rongo atu tōku taringa, e aina ka wareware au. E tamaiti, pai rā oki koe, e ngākau māhere tau ngākau. Nā wai ini te tāngata o mua. Nā te ātua rā hoki, no te wenua rā oki te tāngata. What was quite difficult for me to read was around the usage of the D in the dialect. So, di tinga, down the bottom here, e ngākau e āri. So, rangi Māori e, o rangi Mādi e, Mādi e, D-I-E. And these cards were used to teach Māori how to read and write. Thomas Kendall, who is responsible for the very early iterations of Te Reo Māori, actually took 5 years to compile this. He has come from the Anglican Church Missionary Society, and he was a teacher. He opened up the first school in the Bay of Islands, Rangihawa, to teach Māori. And it wasn't just done with Thomas Kendall alone. This was all done with the support of 2 of our rangatira, Honihika and Waikato. So the missionaries were not trying to teach them English, they were trying to capture their language and to teach Māori how to read and write in Te Reo Māori. So what I have in front of me are 3 exercise books dating back to the early 1800s. And so this is where we see our students in class learning how to write Māori. So the first page, ka oki mai koe, and the student is Hutamati. The date is February the 20th, 1820. A little bit of graffiti over here, as we all have done at school. These are examples of what the tauira were learning. I think this student has beautiful writing. The last sentence I guess I'll finish with is E pai rā tōku ngākau ki te kōrero a te atua. And that is your religious instruction alongside reading, learning to read and write.
Ono tēnei kia hakapuarea mai tō tātou nei kaupapa i tā rānei. E kōru nau mo tēnei mea tau, te karaki. E penei taku kōrero, ka nui te tini o ngā karaki. He karaki anō mo te whakareo ngāke o te tahi waka. He karaki anō mo te whakatō i te kūmara. He karaki mo te ua. He karaki anō mo te tai ao. He karaki anō mo te whānau tamariki. Nō reira, ka kōrero au mo tēnei puka puka ko ngā mōtetea me ngā hakirara o ngā Māori. He mea kohi kohi nā Sir George Grey I kohi kohi ki roto I te puka puka. So I will be talking a bit around karakia or incantations. I actually found this particular publication. It's printed in 1853, so it gives you a period of time that some of our karakia prayers were actually written. In my particular knowledge, a lot of karakia were either said by tohunga or experts. So I was quite surprised with this particular one, and it's got he karakia tamariki. There were certain prayers or incantation for tamariki that were delivered for tamariki as well. So, me tīmata, erere e te kōtare, ki runga ki te pū wharawhara, uruai o pariro, ka mate koe i te ua. There's different types of karakia, and this particular one is one to clear the rain. So the second part of it is ti hore mai I uta, ti hore mai I tai. He rangi ka mau mau, 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 mau te ua. I was particularly interested in this one is because over times karakia have been used but also been transferred to waiata. This particular karakia was used with a great composer. His name was Hirini Melba. Tēnā tangata he mātou anō ki te tito, ki te whakairo I te kupu. This would be probably in the 1970s as well. So he's taken something really tawhito or something old and he's actually put it into in the modern context, he waiata. And I'll actually give it a go. He rere kōtare ki runga pūwhala whara ruru parera amate I te ua. Ruru parera amate I te ua. Hoia tēnā ko te tangi, ko te waiata nei. He mea nei au he karakia, tamariki. Ko te ingoa tēnei puka ko ngā waiata Māori. Nā hone makareka, te whakarite. So this particular item was printed in 1893. The first part of the book says, Popular Māori Songs is written by the Māoris of Waikato, February 1864. Basically, the third page is the translation of the first page, which is Popular Māori Songs. Detailed as prisoners of war having surrendered to General Cameron at the taking of Rangiriri, the 20th of November, 1863. Down here it says some few of the songs have been printed by Sir George Grey in his collection of Māori songs. All the others have not been printed before, so far as I know. Okay, so this particular karakia is one for tamariki. Was also one for children as well, but also somebody who was dedicated to the cultivating of foods. Ko tēnei kōrero he kōrero mo te tamariki. I te mea, kaore anō ko mōhio ki te naki kai. Ki te mea, ka whānau taua tamaiti, kātahi, kātahi. Ki te tohi aia, ki te whawhai, ka oti mo te whawhai. Ka tohi anō mo te naki kai, ko te tohi tēnei. So the first line is mo te whawhai, for fighting. The second line, mahi kai mau tā nehe nehe, is for the tamaiti who wanted to naki kai, cultivate food. I've seen a lot more people, orators or experts in that particular field, are going back to the traditional karakias. They're not very long-winded. I just think the artistry, the whakairo, which is whakairo is the carving of the poetry of the words, is quite good to see.